Hey, what's up guys? Bajheera here, bringing you another Grim Dawn video. And I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with some of my Grim Dawn leveling series, but you'll notice that my character is a little bit more progressed than where we left off, finishing up Act 1 of the story missions. So, the story here is that we finished up my recent competition season. We've been really relaxing and chilling, taking a little bit of a vacation after that, which has given me time to play some Grim Dawn and grind it up. And guys, I am really enjoying this game. It is exactly what I needed after working really hard in the games and the gains and taking a little bit of time to relax over the holidays. This is exactly what I was looking for. But even though we're kind of taking a little bit of a chill time on stream, I think one of the things that would be fun for me to do is share with you guys how my character is looking at level 50 and just go from there. So once again, I am not like an experienced Grim Dawn player, but I am really enjoying it. I'm having a blast with it, so I just, wanted to let you guys know how my character is doing, as we have been pretty much only leveling through the Crucible. That's another thing, is I have not really been doing a lot of the story mode, because I did like keeping the story mode with you guys, or going with you guys on stream, sharing the progression with you guys. That's been fun for me, and maybe we'll continue doing that. I'd like to get Act 2, done on stream with you guys as well. But now that I'm level 50, I'll probably be going pretty quick, so. But anyway, I'm leveling through the Crucible, which is a lot of fun. It is one of the expansions, or the DLCs for Grim Dawn, but it allows you to play in an arena like this, and I'll probably have some gameplay going for you guys as well, where waves and waves of monsters spawn in and gets progressively more difficult. It's just a lot of fun, and it's just exactly what I needed to just, like, smash some mobs, level up a character, get stronger, get some loot, and have some fun. So, enough rambling. Let me show you guys what I'm working with in terms of my skill build. So, once again, not a pro, but what I'm basically doing is playing a Forcewave soldier. That's what my build is based around. Big surprise, I like to play the heavy armor wielding, two-handed weapon smashing character. And the reason I went with Forcewave is because it was like a really nice AoE clear skill that allows me to just smash monsters, and it's like really good for leveling. I think it's really good for Crucible too. I think eventually what I'm going to be working on is getting a one-handed skill, not one-handed skill, like a single target skill a little bit more effectively, maybe even buff up my auto attacks with some of these passives like Markovian Advantage and Zul'Han's Technique. Maybe even go in something like a Blade Arc. But basically, right now Forcewave is doing enough damage single target that it's effective as well. And the idea behind this build is basically like just AoE clear. And the way that I've put my points in initially when I was starting the build was really heavy offensive firepower. And you'll see that sort of reflected in the way my skills are lined up right now. So first things first, how this build works is I put a ton of points into Forcewave. I pretty much maxed this thing out early on. And you'll notice that's reflected by the 17 out of 60. Now, keep in mind that all of my points in this, they're like +1 because of a piece of item or a piece of gear that I have that gives me +1 to all my soldier skills, which is one of the neat things about this game, is that you're going to be looking for pieces that do that a lot. I think that's, we'll talk about it a little bit more when I look at my gear, but I have a lot of % physical damage, % trauma damage, internal trauma damage, and then of course you're gonna be looking for like plus skills and stuff like that too. But I'm just now getting to where plus skills start to show up on items a little bit more, so that's nice. But anyway, went with Forcewave, and usually this has a little bit of a recharge on it, but I went with a little augment here, Tremor, so that it does a lot less damage. It no longer stuns, but it has no cooldown, so I'm able to just spam it like crazy, which is really fun. And then into this we have Rending Force. I put a full 12 out of 12 in this to make it have a little bit more range. The range already caps out, so you could put 1 point and it would be already maxed out in the range, but does piercing damage, a lot more crit damage, a lot more physical damage, which is nice. I'm still working on this one, this internal trauma. Internal trauma is like a really powerful bleed, but that's not bleeding damage. It's different, right? And they have internal trauma and bleeding damage, but it's two kind of like dots that apply that you just smash this big shockwave across the map, and it sends all these opponents, they have like less attack speed and they're bleeding. It's pretty devastating, but it's really cool. And I'm gonna max this out here pretty soon. And you'll notice that how the leveling works is that you have these talents, but you also have like just the mastery level. So in order to unlock this final super powerful aura, I had to put a lot of points in my mastery. So you can either put points in abilities or you can put points in mastery. And that's all the way maxed out, obviously, but which allows me to get this aura right here, this buff, this Oleron's Rage. And Oleron is a character in the lore of this game that I really want to go after in terms of, like, there's a really awesome devotion that I'll show you guys when we get to the devotion tree. But Oleron sounds like a badass, and that I wanna make my character Oleron inspired for sure. So this guy, this buff gives me massive internal trauma damage, massive physical damage, massive pierce damage, massive internal trauma damage percentage. Now, once again, you can have like big old like 143% pierce damage bonus, but without very much pierce damage like built into your character, like the value of pierce damage that you actually do, it's not gonna do that much. But the physical damage is nuts because I do a lot of physical damage, and I'm working on doing a lot of internal trauma damage. Offensive ability is basically like your attack rating, like your ability to hit a mob, right? So that's always nice, and plus movement speed is also fantastic, so I like that. And then once again, this is buffed +1 by my gear that I got that gives me plus soldier skills. Now I put 1 point in Blitz. It's being buffed by my boots, which is cool, but Blitz is just like your charge ability. Yeah, it just charges in, smashes stuff. It can even knock down a target, and you can. It's funny because they get ragdolled and they're still alive, so you can attack them with Forcewave while they're knocked down. It's pretty funny. And I also have this buffed up, and you'll see that it has like little abilities on there as well, like Falcon Swoop and Dryad's Blessing. Now keep that in mind because that's going to be a devotion sort of thing. So if you guys are new to Grim Dawn, and I imagine a lot of you guys might be because I haven't really played it very much, and if you're, you know, if you're only ever kind of seeing the games that I play on my YouTube channel, you might be like, what the heck is going on with this one? So hopefully I'm sharing this game with some of you guys who don't know about it because it's really, really fun. It's not like a new game, but it's been one of those games that's on my radar, and the winter time after we finish the competition season, perfect time to just dive into some action RPG hack and slash grindy goodness, and I'm loving it. And it's also buffed by this ability called Blindside, which I think it makes it, you do some internal trauma damage. It makes it like debuffs your opponent as well, and it also increases the targets that it can hit. So when you charge in, instead of hitting a few targets, it's like hitting everybody, which is nice. And it debuffs everybody and does damage to everybody, which is cool, and puts bleeds on them. So you'll see my build is based a lot around massive physical damage and then internal trauma and bleed damage. So that's what we're looking for, just smashing waves and waves of monsters with huge AoE physical damage and to cause them to bleed as well. Which just so that was like kind of really accentuates your ability to kind of smash but also kite. So I'm definitely like a physical damage tanky character. The tankiness is coming along. I'm mostly have been investing primarily in damage first because early in the game you're just be smashing everything, and then you don't really need defense until you need defense, you know what I mean? So damage first is what this build is based off of. But as you're kiting around, everything's bleeding and you're just continuing to smash damage back into them even though they can't hit you yet. It's nice. And then we do have some more of the defensive talents down here. I haven't put points into a lot of these things because they're like, you know, as a soldier, you can go two-handed, which is nice, but you can also go with a shield. And maybe eventually, as I get higher progressed, I want to have a shield, or I'd maybe eventually want to make a character that has a shield instead. I think this game definitely is going to be one of those games where having multiple characters, multiple builds, trying different stuff, that's like a big draw to it. So that'll be fun. But what we're doing here is instead of the shielding things, we have some really cool abilities like Menhir's Will. Awesome thing. I think I put one. Well, no, I think you can get the right to Menhir's Will. I don't think you have to put a point in it. Nah, you don't. But Menhir's Will is like a cheat death almost. You will die. I think you can be killed through this. I'm not sure. It feels like sometimes maybe I have been killed through, but it doesn't seem like you should be. So you probably can't. But who knows? Anyway, as you draw close to death, the unyielding will of Menhir fills you with renewed strength, and you have to have either a shield or a two-handed melee weapon to use this, which is not a big problem. But what happens is, when your health drops below 33%, it'll pop up with 40% of your health is restored instantly, and 96 health is regen per second. So you take a massive hit, drop low health, this will go boop, it'll pop your health back up and increase your health regen as well, which is really, really nice. So it's like a cheat death mechanic. tries to help keep you alive. And oftentimes is very, very helpful. Instead of just getting smashed and dead, you get smashed and you're like, oh, I gotta kite it around a little bit while my health regens a bit. Very nice. And in terms of some of the flat, like, health buffs, physique is one of those things that it does increase your HP. That's one of your base stats. I'll show that to you when we look at my character sheet. But this just increases your health and your physique. So I've put some points into this, especially in Crucible when I was starting to, like, you know, push to 100, like level 100 and like the normal difficulty. Those monsters started to hit really hard, so I needed just a little bit more physique. Haven't put any points in the shield talents. I put a little bit of points in veterancy. I feel like I probably don't need to be investing even as many points as I am, just with the health regen and constitution and a physique requirement for armor. That's probably nice. I honestly could probably drop quite a few points out of this to move them around a little bit. And that's one of the cool things about this game is that respecking is very inexpensive. It almost seems like you're encouraged to do it, especially with the devotion system. I'll talk about a little bit more about that because that's something that I'm learning more and more about. And that's the thing, kind of like a prevailing thing with this game, is that it starts you off pretty simple, but that's one of the things that I'm realizing is as I play a little bit more and more, and that's one of the things that's really kind of got me hooked on this game, is the complexity of the game and the sort of the way that you can create your character kind of blooms as you continue to progress. So that I've heard people say that it's a little bit of a slow starter, but at the further you get into the game, the more, you know, everything sort of becomes in its full form. And I think that's definitely what's happening now, is I'm starting to get a sort of a hint of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, my build's really coming together. All kinds of crazy stuff is coming together, especially with like the way that gear changes. Maybe like I'm starting to see some really cool items start to drop now on level 50. So very exciting stuff. And I think that definitely applies to your build as well. As you start to get like more points, and as you start to have to make decisions about, okay, what do I need to progress? It's starting to get really, really fun. I mean, it's been fun, but it's starting to get really crazy, so that's cool. Field Command, this is another one of those buffs. I have 2 buffs right now from my tree, and you can see right here, I have Oleron's Rage and Field Command. So Field Command, it increases your offensive ability and defensive ability and armor. So I put 1 point into this one, because it might be something that you want to put more points in later, but basically I was just trying to unlock this buff so I could use the second part of it, which is Squad Tactics. This is plus 94% to all damage, attack speed, and casting speed. So numbers aside, it buffs damage by a lot, attack speed, and casting speed by a lot. So attack speed is nice. I don't really do a lot of just plain melee attacks. I'm mostly force waving around. But once again, attack speed is always nice, and casting speed is always nice. So that'll be just an overall great thing. I may eventually put more points into offensive ability and armor and stuff like that, but the main reason I wanted that is for Squad Tactics. This thing as well, the Decorated Soldier, this is something that probably deserves more points just because it scales so well. Like I could probably take points out of Veterancy for now and put more points in a Decorated Soldier for that more offensive firepower, because this doesn't really do a lot. Unless Constitution is like way better than I think it is, I don't have any trouble with the physique requirement because I put like all my stat points in physique anyway. Big surprise, right? I'm interested in physique. That's right. But the physical trauma, or physical damage, internal trauma, and the nice thing is it has elemental resistances and slow resistance. So that's one of those things I'll be looking out for, because I definitely want to start getting my resistances up, because my character, like I said, I was focused so much on offense early on, and now it's time to start to fill out that defense a little bit, so that resistance would be nice, and it's annoying to be slow, so that's also good. This is another one of those things that I'm starting to think about, is we might need to start putting points into this stuff, because bleeds do a lot of damage, and I have no bleed resistance right now. Stuns obviously annoying, freeze obviously annoying, so Scars of Battle might be something I start to put points in, even if I just put 1 point in it right now, because I do have the plus soldier skills, so that's something pretty cool. So a lot of these things, these other skills, I haven't put any points into them yet. This is like a war cry that debuffs your opponents. You can also fear that your opponents, silence your opponents and debuff them. This is a Blade Arc. This is like another one of those attack abilities that can knock people down. You have things that, you know, it applies a lot of internal trauma, a lot of bleed damage. So this might be something that I put points in at one point, but right now I'm kind of focused on that single target. Keep in mind, I'm level 50, so in terms of the points that I'm going to be getting, I'm only halfway there. But you'll notice I also have a second talent tree. This is my soldier stuff. Obviously, heavily focused on offense. We're going to be shoring up that defense while improving my offense through things like Decorated Soldier and finishing off my internal trauma. Maybe buffing my charge ability because charge is pretty fun, but probably going to be putting some more points into these defensive things, and then looking to put points maybe in the Shaman tree. Now, the Shaman tree, I don't even know if this is the best one that I could have picked. I thought it sounded kind of cool, and it still may be cool. I just haven't really invested very much into it because I like the soldier tree so much. But what I looked for and what I liked a lot was that this physical damage, internal trauma, and health, and you needed a two-handed melee weapon to use it. So I was like, okay, that sounds good to me. And then I put a few points in the mastery. You can see how it gives you the flat stats a little bit, just so I could get to this buff, Mogdragon's Pact or whatever. Just gives you a little bit of physical damage, a little bit of energy, and life regen. Now, this is a pretty cool talent. I feel like it could almost be a one-pointer, kind of like I did over here with this sort of thing. Because I think what makes it good is things like this, like a whole lot more health, a whole lot less poison duration and bleeding duration. And then something like this, which is way more health regen, armor, and I guess a little bit less retail damage, I guess. Or a little bit more retail damage. I don't really do a lot of retaliation damage, so I think what I'm mostly looking for here is this guy. But the percent health regen is kind of cool too, especially if I actually get pretty solid regen on that. But this is a buff that I thought looked cool. If I was gonna try another little talent tier, I think that Arcanist is good, and I think Demolitionist could be really, really fun. But for right now, we're gonna try the Shaman as a second tier. I kind of want to fill out my I keep almost calling it warrior. You guys notice that? I want to finish out my soldier talent tree before I go to Shaman too heavily. But I think that the thing I'm looking forward to is this. But Shaman also offers me some pretty interesting ideas in terms of if I wanted to cast an ability that gives me some lifesteal, or if I wanted to work on like a really powerful single target damage ability. This is another one of those things that's possible. But before we sort of think all that through, I'll probably just play some more and see where we want to go. But we'll do soldier first. So now prepare yourselves, because if this seemed complex, I hope it didn't seem too crazy. This is where things get a little wild, is the devotion tree. So this is craziness. This is pretty exciting stuff. And it's something I'm learning more about, because there's complexity in this game that sort of builds as we go. But basically how all these constellations work is that they all per point give you something unique. But if you complete the constellation, then you get an affinity. And these affinities are required in order to unlock some of the more powerful ones. So just for an example, remember I was talking about Oleron? Oleron is what I want to get to eventually, this big guy. But you'll see it costs 20 affinity with the Chaos, I believe is what it is. And then it costs 7 for Order. No, it is Ascendant. Okay. So it costs 20 affinity with Ascendant and 7 affinity with Order. It doesn't like cost it, but you have to have that amount to even unlock it, because eventually it gives me some really crazy stuff like 100% internal trauma damage, you know? Things like 4% physical resistance, 100% physical damage. Like, that's just crazy. Plus a nice thing where whenever you crit, you get like a little bit of extra bleed damage as well. So it's just wild, and this is what I want to get to eventually. But in order to do that, I have to put points into other little constellations to unlock the Ascendant quality that I need. So, for example, I put some of my devotion points into Hammer. 15% physical damage, 30% internal trauma, 8 defensive ability, and then of course you get the finisher is kind of like a stronger one, which is physical damage and internal trauma damage, and that gives me 4 of the Ascendant affinity. So then I can sort of transfer around and get some of the stuff. So instead of going through every single point, I'll kind of show you what I'm working with right now, just to give you an idea. Because what's crazy is that I can snapshot this. So if I were to, at some point, get, what I'm working towards right now is I'm putting points in things I might not, ultimately use. Like, I might not ultimately use the Wolverine or something, but if I wanted to, I don't think I've put points into this, but if I wanted to, just to complete the constellation, what I can do is I can put points into this, which unlocks Oleron, put points into Oleron, and then take these points out, and it wouldn't disable my ability to use Oleron anymore, which is kind of cool. So I may do that. But what I'm doing right now is I'm using things like the Hammer for increased physical damage. I'm using things like Scholar's Light for some physique and for some elemental resistance. and damage. No, I think it's, yeah, the resistance right here and damage right here. So this is one of those things that I probably put points into to unlock something that I wanted to use as well. You'll notice that when I'm smashing stuff and it sends off these little falcons, that's an ability that's unlocked by these constellations. And then you put this ability attached to a particular skill that I have. So I put on a Forcewave. So this will send out falcons occasionally on my Forcewave attack. You'll notice when I charge, every time when I charge, I get a little buff. That buff comes from the Dryad constellation. The Dryad is primarily involved giving me some buffs, but a lot of times it's going to be like some defensive stuff, some resistant stuff. And also, one of the reasons I like this one is it has a reduced spirit requirement for jewelry. And there's a particular necklace that I like that has a pretty serious requirement of spirit. And this knocks it down so I can use it. So I can wear a helmet that gives me plus physical damage. But this also, 100% chance on attacks. Every time I charge, as long as it's not on cooldown, it will reduce my poison duration and bleeding duration and heal me. So that's kind of nice, like a little heal charge. And I do lifesteal off my abilities anyway, so that's nice. Let's see what else we got that's worthy of note. We've got Salamander, or Lizard, which just gives me health regen and movement speed, which is really nice. Another one that people like a lot is Sailor's Guide for the resistances. I think the Throne also gives me resistances. The Throne is something I'm going to be working on because it has 5 of the affinity that I need with Ascendant to get to Oleron, so that's probably another one on my list. I'm probably going to finish off the Crab here. The Crab is giving me some cool stuff. I mean, it's really nice. It's physical damage, so I like that. But it also gives me a little magic barrier when I unlock this. That'll be my next point to go to there. Let's see what else we got over here. A fun one that I've put on here is a Ghoul. So whenever I hit low health, it will trigger this ability off of a buff that I have to increase my attack speed and lifesteal pretty hard and give me some physical resistance. So that's kind of cool. When I go low health, I'll get Menhir's Will. I will also proc this guy so I can lifesteal my health back up. We got the Stag, which I believe is just physical damage and bleeding damage and movement speed, which is nice. Once again, this is kind of just to give me some points to unlock other stuff. Another one that I had to work hard to unlock is this big boy. Check out this, the Kraken, 50% to all damage. 50% to all damage. 10% attack speed and health. 70% to all damage, movement speed, and health. Now, what it requires is for a two-handed weapon, so that's perfect for me. So if you guys like two-handed weapons, find a way to unlock the Kraken. So if you guys get this game, and I think that you probably will enjoy it if you like the action RPG genre, it's definitely one to pick up. You will probably end up spending a lot of time looking at all these unique devotions and getting a feel for how this stuff works. But it's really, really cool, and I really enjoy it. But basically, you start somewhere and eventually go down the constellation. But the constellations themselves sort of work in a branching manner in that you need to have enough points to even put a starter point in a big constellation like Oleron, for example. So depending on what you want, once again, I kind of started off with some of the offensive ones that looked fun to me, then a little bit more defensive ones, and right now I'm going for offensive or defensive that allow me to get the affinity that I need. So once I get to all the Ascendant affinity, I can honestly just come over here and put 1 point in the. Oh no, I already have used my 1 point in Crossroads, so I'm gonna have to find a way to get at least 1 point in the order in order to unlock Oleron. But that's basically how that works. Pretty crazy, but really fun, and some of the complexity can be overwhelming, but I think that's part of the fun. But all right, so now that's basically looking at my different sort of skills and devotions and whatnot. Let's take a look at my character. So whenever I level up my character, I've been putting all my points in physique. I haven't put a single point in cunning or in spirit. So I guess if you're playing a different kind of character, you may want to consider some of these. But for me, it's all physique. And now my gear is definitely not crazy, but I feel like I've found some cool stuff, so I'll show it to you. This weapon is nutty. I love it. Big old damage. Now, what I'm looking for on this character is basically what I told you guys before. Percent physical damage is what I'm looking for. That's what we like to see. This one has piercing damage. It has 11% reduction in enemy's health, which seems kind of crazy. I feel like it probably just knocks it down like once, probably. But it has 35% to all damage. That is definitely acceptable to me. Basically, the only thing that deals damage is physical damage, but I do have some like lightning damage on my weapons, so there's that. I think that bleeding counts as physical damage, but I'm not really sure. But either way, it does plus 17% to Chthonics, which is a popular mob type. in like the later levels of the Crucible, so that's nice. When things get difficult, you're just smashing these really powerful monsters. And you'll see that I put the component of the chipped claw. So basically every slot has like a variety of different components you can put on. Components are like gems, basically. You find a ton of them. I have some in my inventory right now, and if I go to my bank, it would be stocked full of them. So don't hesitate to find, if you find components, don't hesitate to put them on your weapons. I didn't do it for a while, and then that was one of those things that I did to kind of push my character a little bit stronger. So a lot of times I'll have like percent physical damage on a lot of my stuff. You'll notice this. The little roiling blood. On my armor I have plus health, which is nice too. But anyway, we have the component of the chipped claw for extra physical damage. This is a nice weapon. I'm probably due for an upgrade on this one. It's only level 36 and I'm level 50, so when we find a weapon that does extra physical damage, that's what we're looking for. It's kind of like, it was described to me when I was streaming as like, it's kind of like WoW my character is, where I just want a big, heavy, like max attack. So it's kind of like as a warrior in WoW, you want something that has a huge like top end weapon damage, so that your weapon damage scaling skills do the most, like Forcewave for me. That's what we're looking for. So this is pretty nice. Zolhan's Battleplate, a relatively new find. Big physical damage, big pierce damage, massive physique value. 6% chance to avoid projectiles is kind of cool. And it does +2 to Zolhan's Technique, which is a skill on my talent tree. I maybe should just put 1 point in it just so I can benefit from it, even though Zolhan's Technique only buffs my normal attacks. A lot of those skills will only buff your normal attack, like not Forcewave, so keep that in mind. But hey, if you just want to swing that auto attack around, you can do some seriously cool stuff with it. And of course I have it buffed with mutated scales for the extra health. There is another thing called, like, I forget what it's called, but there's a reason why you want to do normal mode is to get your reputation up with the factions. I guess factions aren't even something that you can look at in Crucible, but because you get like augmentations, and augmentations are like another kind of like, this is like a component that gives you plus stats and stuff. Augmentations are another thing that you can put on your weapons and gear to make it even more powerful. So I probably will need to farm out some story mission to get reputation to buy those things, because kind of like in WoW, it'll have like, you know, vendors that you can buy really cool stuff, but you have to have a certain amount of rep to do it. That's how you get that kind of stuff. So even though Crucible's fun, I probably will need to play some story mode, but right now I just kind of wanted to smash some Crucible, level up, have some fun, and I definitely am. But this is an awesome piece of loot I got recently. This is a level 50 requirement. This is the kind of stuff that starts dropping when you start to push like level 100 in the Crucible. It's pretty sweet. The Crucible does scale with your level, but still, like now that I'm level 50 and we're pushing kind of high level stuff, it's nice to get some really cool drops like this. So it's 46% physical damage, 31% internal trauma damage, physique, physical resistance. It really doesn't get much better than that. That is beautiful. It also gives me Earthquake, which is 5% chance on attack, and I'm really hoping that this attack also means Forcewave, because if it dropped an Earthquake that does physical damage, trauma, stuns, and slows my opponents off of Forcewave, that's going to be godlike. So I'm really excited to try to put these into use. Also, we have the plus health on that bad boy. In terms of my shoulders, once again, the story, what we're looking for is consistent. Physical damage, internal trauma. Reduced stun duration is whatever, but once again, this is just a magic item, but it had two things I really like, so we're taking that physical damage for sure. Once again, physical damage on these. Offensive ability is nice. A couple resistances, which is cool because my resistances are not great. But once again, I've been focusing on offensive firepower primarily. Big surprise there. This also gives me Battle Fury, so whenever or 33% chance on crit, it'll give me health back and offensive ability. Now, once again, I'm hoping that this applies off of Forcewave, but a lot of the things that I've seen, at least in terms of the talent trees, it only applies off of like normal auto attacks. So I need to verify that. These boots are pretty cool too. Plus 45% physical damage, defense, movement speed, physical resistance, and it does buff my charge and the charge modifier, the blitz and blind side, which is really cool. And I do have Mark of the Traveler on these. Plus health regen and movement speed and slow resistance. Movement speed in the games like this is always nice, especially if I'm kiting stuff around. Sometimes I will sacrifice my character being faster for hitting harder, being tankier, but that's just kind of part of the deal. Now, a couple of like the you have like your amulet, your rings, and you also have like a medal. So it's just another one of those things that your character will have but kind of a cool little thing. It gives me physical damage, fire damage, and now plus fire, ether damage, all this kind of stuff. Like, I don't really do much damage that's fire and ether anyway, so it's not gonna help me that much, but the internal trauma damage is nice. And this is one of the item slots that can have plus XP. Like, I had a weapon that gives me plus XP. I have like a helm that gave me plus XP while I was leveling, and boots. So that's really cool. So if you just want to farm and sacrifice some stats, sometimes you can, but this didn't really require me to sacrifice stats to give me plus XP, so that's nice. Just good old stat sticks. These guys, like, usually jewelry and things like that are just like ways to get really cool stats. But this is a belt that I also got recently, another one of those level 50 epics. Does crit damage, internal trauma damage, bleed damage, offensive ability. So I actually lost some physical damage, but the fact that it gives me +1 to all skills in soldier makes it so worthwhile. Really, really cool. So like my Forcewave, which is capped out, now has +1 level, so it does that much more damage. It's really nice. And in terms of looking at this kind of stuff, how it affects your character, you can always kind of like open up a tab, like these things that has like your offensive ones, your defensive ones. So I'm basically looking at whatever's making my Forcewave do more damage without dropping too much other crazy stuff. Sounds good to me. But you also have another slot called the Relic. So I've actually found some really cool patterns to make some like crazy relics, but I do not have anywhere near the equipment for it. So probably gonna have to do some more story mode to get that kind of stuff. But it's really cool to at least have them. So what I do have right now is Calamity. It does a little bit of physical damage. It has a chance to do extra damage, fire damage, offensive ability. But it also, whenever I get attacked, oh no, I think it is whenever I attack in general, a burst of searing brimstones are up for me. So this does proc. And I think it's off of Forcewave, so that makes me think this might proc off of Forcewave too. So even though it's a small % chance to proc, a little bit of AoE is kind of nice too, which is fun. And it says completion bonus, which is crit damage. I'm not sure what that's about. And I think I might be able to put stuff on my relic in terms of like my little attachments. So I'm gonna have to go look at my bank and see if I can put stuff on my relic. But either way, that's this setup right here. And in terms of my rings are actually kind of bad, but I haven't replaced them just because I haven't really found anything that gives me plus physical damage. These don't have like flat stats on them, so being low item level but having what I want seems okay. But I'm definitely looking for some upgrades to my rings. But physical damage, trauma damage, a little bit of physique. Definitely need to find a way to upgrade this ring, like now that I look at it. I haven't been paying very much attention to my rings, I guess. This is a little bit better. 36, 18% physical damage. Vitality damage doesn't really mean anything to me because I don't have much of that. A little bit of regen, a little bit of resistance, but it does have some nice health on it too. And you'll notice I have roiling blood on both of these things, that physical damage. Stalwart Bone Charm of Ruin. This is one of those things that had a lot of spirit requirement, but I was able, no, maybe it was this thing too. Yeah, it was this thing that I was able to wear because of the spirit requirement from that one constellation, the Dryad that I showed you. But this one has nice stats on it too. Physical damage, trauma damage, the same thing that we're always looking for. And this bad boy, this is another one of those situations where I had a helm that had a lot of spirit on it, which allowed me to wear this ring. But now, since I have that Dryad bonus, I can wear a bad boy like this. Plus 26 physical damage, 56 physique, pierce resistance, and +1 internal trauma, which is one of those abilities that buffs my damage that I like so much from my skill tree, which is cool. And then of course, we have buffed this thing up with another bristly fur. So that's that way my gear is looking. Obviously, we need some ring upgrades. Might have to check and see if I can put a little component on this. But all in all, this is just my leveling gear. This is nothing that's like too insane. This is not end game or anything like that. Right now, the level cap in this game is, I believe, 100, so I'm like halfway there at best. But at that halfway mark, I'm starting to get some really crazy cool drops, like these level 50s that buff my skills and give me really cool skills to use as well. Really exciting stuff. We are getting some epics, which is nice to fill out this, but we still have plenty of room to improve this kind of stuff. Even the magic gear is still good for me. You know, I have a magic amulet, magic shoulders, just have some rares for my weapons and stuff like that. So there's plenty of room to fill out my gear. There's plenty more for me to explore and to learn in this game. Things I haven't talked to you guys too much about is like I talked to you a little bit about the components. I have not talked to you very much about the crafting system. Probably can go into that. I feel like this video has been plenty long already, but you guys know me. When I start to get to talk about, you know, min-maxing and character creation and, you know, improving my character and customizing, that I love that kind of stuff. And so this game has definitely sort of scratched that itch. But the cool thing is that the more I play, the more fun it actually gets, and the more hooked on it I become. So if you guys are looking for a really fun action RPG, trust me on this one. Give Grim Dawn a try. I'm a little bit hooked on it, like I said, and the more I play, the more fun it gets. But this is just kind of a look at where my character is right now. The Forcewave Warder, technically, because I do have the Shaman thing, but I'm mostly just a soldier. So looking forward to leveling this guy up more, playing through story mode a little bit more probably, kind of progressing that way so I can get some rep up and continue to have fun. Hopefully we'll see you guys on stream, even though we're taking a little bit of a nice little vacation post all of our excitement. But we'll keep you guys in the loop on how this character is going if you're interested. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace!